Welcome to my class student. It's class 8 English Honeydew. We are doing poem 3, that is Macavity, the mystery cat. And this is text and session 5. In this session we will go through the poem Macavity, the mystery cat. Thus the poem is about a cat. And who is the writer? Who is the poet? You know, T.S. Eliot, a very famous poet. Now about the poet. Thomas Stone Eliot, in order of merit. He was born on 26 September 1888 and he died on 4 January 1965. He was a British essayist, publisher, playwright, literary and social critic, and one of the 20th century's major poets. He was not only a poet, he was also an essayist. He was a publisher, playwright, literary and social critic. So, the poem is written by T.S. Eliot. Now, Macavity is a fictional character who is described in a poem in Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats by T.S. Eliot. T.S. Eliot has written this poem, Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats, and Macavity is a fictional character, not a real character. He also appears in Cats, the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. This Macavity, the fictional character, also appeared in Cats, and that was the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. The name Macavity is a pun by T.S. Eliot, the author of the poem on Macbeth. See, Macbeth is the author of the poem, and Macavity is a pun that is based on that Macbeth. Macbeth is a super villain who appears both in Georges, the Beggar's Opera, its sequel Polly, and roughly 200 years later as Mac the Knife in the Threepenny Opera written by Bertolt Brecht and Kurt Weill in 1928, and Mercutile, the adject obsidian sword, and Moriarty, the surname of a super-villain scientist from the Sherlock Holmes stories by Arthur Conan Doyle. So why this Macavity? See, what is the name of that Macavity? So this Macavity, as you sing, Macavity is what? Mac is for this Mac, and this Mac is there as a Moriarty. The Moriarty was the surname of a super villain scientist from the Sherlock Holmes stories by Arthur Conan Doyle. So this Macavity fictional character is taken as a pun by Mr. T.S. Eliot. And this Macbeth was a super villain who appears both in John Gay's The Beggar's Opera and its sequel Polly, and roughly 200 years later as Mac the Knife in the Threepenny. He was such a super villain that many writers have taken this character in their plays, in their fiction. So T.S. Eliot has also taken this name. This Mac is for this Mac, and cavity means hole. The word cavity implies a hole or void or absence of something, and here is described in the poem as being not there at the time of location of any crime. So Macavity is a type of cat who was very mischievous, who was a super villain, and when police used to go to the crime place, he was nowhere. He used to flee from there. The poem Macavity, the mystery cat, is the best known of Eliot's Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats, the only book Eliot wrote for a younger audience. The book is for 11 and 12 years old children. The poem is considered The poem is considered particularly suitable reading for 11 and 12 years old. And Macavity, also called the mystery cat, the hidden paw, and Napoleon of crime. There are three names given by T.S. Eliot to this cat. First, the Macavity, that is the mystery cat. Then the hidden paw and the Napoleon of crime. He is a master criminal, but in the poem he is too clever to leave any evidence of his guilt. He did never leave any evidence of his guilt. Now, the poem, it starts now. Do you have a pet cat? Have you ever noticed anything mysterious about it? It is not easy to say whether every cat is a mystery, but Macavity is one for sure. What is it that makes him a perfect mystery cat? Read the poem and find out. Now, poem starts. Macavity is a mystery cat. He is called the hidden paw. Paw of a cat and the hidden paw. You know where people find the cat. For he is the master criminal who can defy the law. He can easily defy the law. As you know, this Macavity, the cat, the name is taken as a pun by T.S. Eliot, and the character has been appeared in many of the books that I have explained earlier. So, that character, that Macavity, was a master criminal, and he was always successful to leave the place of crime, and nobody could find him. He is the bafflement of Scotland Yard. The flying square's despair. Now all the spies, all the people, nowhere found him when there was a crime. So he was the bafflement of Scotland Yard. The flying square's despair. The flying squares, that was a group of spies. For when they reached the scene of crime, Macavity is not there. Everybody knew who was the criminal. But how to guess the criminal if criminal was not there? So, he was a bafflement. See, Macavity, a very clever master criminal and super villain. The look of Macavity, just see. Macavity. There is no one like Macavity. He has broken every human law. He breaks the law of gravity also. What is the law of gravity? That means if something is fallen from up, it will go just on the earth. It will not float in the air. But Macavity has the power of levitation and would make a fakir stare. And when you reach the scene of crime, Macavity is not there. He had such a good power of levitation that he defied the law of gravity also. You may seek him in the basement. You may look up in the air. In the basement, you may see him. In the air, you may look up, but I tell you once and once again, Macavity is not there. You may have a frantic search for him, but nowhere you will find, because it was very much clear that he has left the crime place. Macavity is a ginger cat. He is very tall and thin. You would know him if you saw him, for his eyes are sunken in. You can recognize the Macavity because he was a ginger cat. He was very tall, very thin. Everyone knew about him, but nobody could find him at the place of crime. So he was always successful in ditching the police, in befooling the police. The police could never catch Macavity. So, what is the structure of Macavity? He was very tall, he was thin, his eyes were sunken, his brows is deeply lined with thought, his head is highly domed, his coat is dusty from neglect, he did never take care of his cloth. So his coat is dusty. His whiskers are uncombed. His whiskers are uncombed. He sways his head from side to side with movements like a snake. What is the movement of snake? Like this. So Macavity could sway his head from side to side. And when you think he is half asleep, he is always wide awake. That means Macavity was very clever. Everyone knew about Macavity, his appearance, his manners, his way of stealing, his way of crime, but nobody could catch him because he was super villain. He was a mystery cat. He was a hidden paw. So nobody could catch him. Macavity. There is no one like Macavity, for he is a fan in feline shape. Macavity. There is no one like Macavity, for he is a fan in feline shape, a monster of depravity. He was a monster of depravity. He knows the art of deprivation. You may meet him in a by street. You may see him in the square. But when a crime is discovered, then Macavity is not there. So the criminal, he does all the crimes, and you can find him in a by street, in the square. You know, you can recognize him. But at the crime place, when the crime is discovered, Macavity is not there. So this is a poem written by T.S. Eliot, and you must have come to know about the supervillain, the characteristics of supervillain. You know how clumsy he was. His whiskers were uncombed. His coat was always dusty. So he was very unorganized because he was always indulged with crime, and he was always in a hurry to leave the place of crime. That's why he was a bafflement for the spy, for the police. Now this poem comes to an end here. You must have known about one of the best poems written by T.S. Eliot. And why it is so good? Because T.S. Eliot has taken the name as a pun. All the characters, this character has been repeated by many other writers also in their work. So this is a very famous character, and it's a fictional character, Macavity. In the next class, I will do its question answer. Till then, have a good revision of the poem, learn the poem, understand it, and goodbye. Thank you.